Under these algebraic expressions, we are going to learn how to do additions, subtractions, multiplication, as well as division. So you may consider stay here to the end of the video, whereby we show some of the pure exams question, how to tag things like this under what algebraic expression. So the idea of algebraic expression is that we are just using some variables. Of course, that is the common letter in mathematics, x, and then y, maybe z, any letter in what English alphabet, or maybe in some different countries, any letter that you can think of to represent things that we don't know, right? So suppose this is a price of a plate of rice, right? So anything, maybe a price of uh, a phone or anything that you can think of, right? So that's what, let's say this is what, just an amount to be $10 here, or maybe this is a, let's say maybe $20, or maybe here can be what, maybe 10,000, or maybe thousand, or $1,000, and so on and so forth, right? We are just using this thing to represent some value. That's what we are calling what, algebra. So the difference here is that you must understand that this guy here, which is the x and the x squared, are not the same in algebraic expression, right? So that is one key thing that you must focus on. These two things are not the same. Don't worry, we'll solve a pure questions or exams questions under this thing for you to understand best, right? Okay, now let's dive into the idea of additions and the subtraction. The only thing you must know here is to have the idea on how, just know the law, right? So what it means. I'm using this marker to write on the board, right? And mobile phones, right? So maybe let's say mobile phones are used for what, communication, right? So that is, let's say that is the law, right? That is one thing, one method that you can use to communicate wherever you are. Okay, now what are we going to use to have the idea on what to do with the additions and the subtraction, and then as well as multiplication? Now let's have the idea on the additions with these questions. So this is a very simple and a nice question that we are having here. We are going to, you can see that it's the combinations of the additions and what, subtractions. So the key here is that you must know what to use. So under algebraic expression, for you to add and subtract, you must know your family member, right? So once the two of you are coming from the same family, right? So the same family means that both of you bear the same surname, right? So that is the case. That's the assumption here. So what I mean by that is that wherever I see this a number, or maybe a number attached to the X here, when I'm looking for that partner or maybe a family member, I'm going for another person that bears that name to be X, right? So those are the things that we are going to group into one side here, and then those that bears the same name to be Y, and then those that bear same name to be nothing. What I mean by nothing is that without a variable, right? So we are going to group these two people, or maybe here you have the 5x here, and then where is your family member? Remember, you have another family member here to be positive 3x here, right? And then finally, do you have any x again? You don't have any x. Now let's move on to the y. So starting from this point, we have a negative 9y, and then here we have a positive 2y here, and then for the numbers, so here we have a positive 4, and then here to be a minus 7. Once we are done with this is what we call grouping, right? So once we are done with that, and then since this is what I said earlier on, this is my family member, this is also my family member, so now we can move on with the numbers that are attached to them. So we know how to do the addition and the subtraction already. So we don't necessarily care about where they are coming from, right? So here is going to be 5 plus, or plus 3 here gives us what, 8, right? So 8 here, so I can choose to write 8 here, 8x. So these two people are coming from the x family, and then here to be what, negative 9 plus 2, right? So the number attached to the y here is what we are doing. So negative 9 plus positive 2 will be what, minus 7y, right? So what about these people? These two people are going to be what, negative 3, right? So this is what we have at the end of the grouping, right? So for the addition and the subtraction on the algebraic expression, always make sure that you are dealing with your family members. So what I mean by the family members here, the letters that are familiar, right? So the letters that are familiar are things that you have to add and then subtract. Okay, what about this question? Now this is what we are having, right? So you have three people here, and then you want to add them under what algebraic expression. So remember what I said here. This guy, where are the family members? So clearly you can see that this is x squared, and then this is also another one, x squared here. So meaning that these two people are coming from the same family, right? Remember, this is just x, so x and x squared can never be the same under this condition. So meaning that this guy is far from what these two people here. Right? For that reason, then we can only add what the x squared and then plus what 2x squared, right? And then finally the x is attached to that, so we can combine these two people since they are coming from the same family, right? So this is just one here. Remember, there's a 1 plus 2 gives us a 3x squared, and then plus what this guy is alone, right? So this guy is alone here, so what is plus a. We cannot add these two people. The reason being is that this is being squared and then there's no square. It means that these two people are coming from two different family, right? Okay, perfect. That is what the addition and the subtraction. So when it comes to the division and multiplication, that one comes to the idea of indices, right? So this is just a name, so you must know the meaning behind this name. And then we are going to use some questions to demonstrate how to deal with these two people. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Before we proceed to more complicated questions, now this is a very simple one, right? So we are having two brackets here, so this one being multiplied by this. So the trick here is that if I have something that goes this way, so let's say something like this, let's say x plus 1, so that tells me that this 2 is multiplying everything in the bracket. So 2 multiplied by the that gives us 2s, and then this multiplied by that should be 2, right? Okay, so that idea is what we are going to convey and then solving this problem here. So here it means that this x here, so we just assuming that this guy doesn't exist. Is that okay? So this guy doesn't exist. If he doesn't exist, then it means that the x is multiplying everything in this bracket, and then finally we move to the second part. So since that the first one doesn't exist, and then we are using the negative 2 to multiply everything in the bracket. And that is very simple and straightforward. So let's see how to multiply. So this x here is going to multiply everything. That is the x into bracket s plus 3, right? So and then followed by the negative 2 here. So negative 2, and then multiply by what everything. That is the x plus what, plus 3. Right? Okay, since you know how to multiply this, and this is very, I guess you should pause the video, try your hands on this, and come back and come and check the solution. So congratulations for trying, right? So here, if you use this guy to multiply this one, it's going to be x squared. And then this multiplied by this one will be positive 3s here. So here the focus is how did you get this square here, right? So that is the question. How did you get this square? That brings the idea of what indices, right? This is just a name, right? So what it means here is that if you are multiplying two people that are coming from the same family, right? So if they are coming from the same family and then we are multiplying, then it means that this guy is being carried by 1, this guy is being carried by 1, right? So 1 here. So 1 plus 1, that is equal to 2. Is that okay? So that is why we have these 2 here. So if you have this simple idea, you can do a more complicated questions, right? It's just the combinations of the simplest thing together. Okay, now here you have the 3s, and then here too, this is what I had here. Now remember, at the beginning of the video, we know how to do something like this. Once these two people are coming from the same family, while this one is from different family, this is also from different family. So if this is the reason, then we should combine these two people, right? So we have the s squared, this one minus this, right? So 3 minus 2 here, that should be that should just give us 1x. So 1x there, that's just x here, and then we are left with 6, right? So there's nothing we can do at this point again, since we are just multiplying. The question didn't ask it to move on further, right? So here we can leave it as is, since these three guys are all coming from different families altogether, right? Okay, so perfect. This is what I had. So what about the division aspect? This is very simple one. That is x exponent 3 divided by x squared here, right? So the idea of division is to apply that same law of indices. That is if these people are being divided, then we are going to subtract the exponent. So the top one minus the down one, right? So what I mean by that is going to be x here, whatever I'm having at this point here, and then we have the 3 minus 2. This is a law that you must obey on the divisions of algebraic expression, right? Okay, now that's just a simple one. So what about if you have 4 here and then here is 2? We already know how to divide numbers, right? So you already know how to divide. So this one divided by this one, that will give us 2, just 2 attached to this one. So the answer to this is going to x exponent of 1, which of course that is just 2x, right? So that's very, very simple. Now we have a more complicated exam solution that are all based on this simple method on how to solve it. So if you are getting value from this video, once again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Pin down anything that you want to know on the algebraic expression, right? So in the comment section below, let's hear from you anything that you want to understand, or maybe any topic that you want us to treat in our next video. Make sure that you pin down in the comment section below for more content. Now, this is the question I had at the beginning. So this question contains almost all the operations we've seen earlier on, right? So this one, this is one person here, and then this is another people here, and then being combined together by what multiplication. Now, the key here is that you must some this is the mistake that I've been seeing. Some may say that you are going to multiply this thing here by everything here. So with that comes with the idea of how to multiply, let's say things like this, right? So you multiply the top to top and down to down. But these people here have more than necessary, right? So they have more than necessary. So don't do that mistake if you see a complicated thing somehow complicated. So the first step here is to try and see if you can simplify. So now if you have things like, let's say I have 4 on 8, right, being multiplied by 1 on 2, you cannot go straight forward and multiply this by this and this multiply. You first of all have to check whether you can simplify, right? So that is the idea. So can you reduce this thing to the lowest form before you proceed with your multiplication, right? So that is what we are going to use in this method here. So this guy here, you have to see if you can reduce the fraction, right? You can reduce everything down into the lowest form before you proceed in one multiply. Of course, here I can see that there's a name by what quadratic. So this is what we call a quadratic expression. So with a quadratic expression, we are trying to reduce this thing down before we go multiplying the two things together. First step is to factorize this quadratic expression here. So this is a quadratic. You are going to factorize this in by what factorization method. We have a full video on what quadratic, so you may consider checking our playlist below, and then maybe subscribe to the channel for more. If you don't know how to factorize this, and just try and comment down below. I will make a special video on what a quadratic factorization. Now, if you use the factorization method to deal with this thing, you are going to have s minus 2 and then what s plus or plus 2. These are the two factors that we are going to have for just this guy. Don't change the nature of the whole question, right? So once you have this factorization, that the same idea for this one here, and what about these two people? The same idea to break down everything step by step. Now factorize this guy down here and come back and come and check the solutions. So this is what I had for the guy at the down here. So multiply by, now we are on these two people. Okay, here we can factor out the x, right? So we can say this x and s here. We can bring the x out, right? And then here you are having x, and then we are left with x and then minus 1. This is the factorization. So of course we have a video on what a factorization. Once again, check the playlist down below, or maybe consider subscribe to the channel for more content. Now here is going to be what, this is another quadratic, right? So with the factorization, we can easily going to have x. So this is the answer to this guy at the down here, right? Just by we are just using factorization method to simplify everything step by step. So why are we doing this thing? in order for us to have the simplicity, right, to bring everything to the lowest form. So here we have a you can see that this guy at the down here, this guy here, you can see the same guy somewhere at the down here, right? And then for that reason, this guy can cancel out this. And then what about this one? So you have s minus 2. This one can cancel out this. And then what about this? This one can also vanish. This guy at the top here. See the way I'm canceling out. So top to down, top to down, top to down, right? Okay, now what is left? We are left with just these people. So the answer here is going to be what? The x here, right? So the x, this guy here, x here, everything vanish in the first part. So here we are having x divided by what? S minus 3, right? So this is the answer to the whole of that is why you need to have the idea of factorization, the addition, the multiplication, so on and so forth, in order to tackle almost all the questions on that one algebraic expression. If you have any question relating to this thing or anything that you want us to change on that, this, make sure that you comment in the comment section below.